Superman meets Santa Claus. Do I even have to say anything else? That's like the two most powerful forces for good in the universe coming together during the happiest time of the year. That's too much positivity even for an episode of this show, but we will endure because this story is just too good to pass up. Today we are talking about Superman: The Christmas Adventure. This is a one-shot developed and released in 1940 when Superman was still relatively new. You think of it as a sort of a holiday special featuring Superman that exists away from his main series. The story starts off with Clark and Lois out Christmas shopping for the holidays when they stumble onto a young boy who is too poor to afford any toys. They feel terribly for the boy, but there is nothing they can do about his predicament. Then Clark has a wonderful idea. Back at the planet, Clark explains to Perry White that he wants to do a toy drive for all the unfortunate children living in Metropolis. Perry thinks that this is a wonderful idea and puts Clark and Lois in charge of the project. That night, Superman goes out and meets with a very wealthy and very spoiled child who doesn't like any of the gifts that he has. Superman takes this child out for a midnight flight and shows him all the poor children who don't have anything to enjoy for Christmas. This changes the boy's mind and causes him to appreciate everything he has. So that's weird. We're not going to talk about how creepy it is that Superman would kidnap this child in the middle of the night. Sure, I mean, he was a spoiled brat, but Superman totally crossed the line here, right? However, like all things involving Superman, kidnapping this rich child would end up paying off in the end. So stay tuned for that. Meanwhile, on the North Pole, we meet up with a man named Dr. Grouch and his henchman, Mr. Meanie. They have just arrived on the North Pole using an advanced airship so they can have a meeting with Santa Claus. They want to enter a business arrangement with Santa to use his factory to make products they could sell to become rich. Of course, Santa is entirely against the idea of making a profit, so he has his elves escort the men away. As a result, Dr. Grouch and Mr. Meanie destroy Santa's workshop. Of course, Santa is not without his defenses. In this case, he has an army of automated toy soldiers who act as his security system. They pelt the evil duo with rocks and tiny bullets, which once again drives them away. So I don't know if Dr. Grouch is a common villain for Superman, or if he was invented just for this single holiday special. I've searched high and low for any sign of him in the main series, but I can't find any other appearances. So let me know if you guys have any info on this guy. I would want to know more. Even though he is actually a pretty generic character, it's still nice to know these things. So now Grouch has a new plan. He's going to kidnap Lois Lane for some reason, even though they technically don't have any conflict between them. I guess we just need a reason for Superman to get involved. Then, after they kidnap Lois, they go and they kidnap Santa's reindeer. So now Santa has no way of delivering his gifts this year. So what does he do? He calls upon the world's greatest helper, Superman, to come and rescue him. Superman arrives with this wonderful line, "No time for formalities, what's the trouble, Santa?" Which just tickles me in how pragmatic and also simultaneously absurd it is. But Santa Claus explains the situation, and Superman leaps into action where he rescues the reindeer pretty much without incident. The problem is that Dr. Grouch actually has a gas gun, and he puts the reindeer to sleep. So now there is absolutely no way they can be used to deliver the gifts. It looks like all hope is lost, and Christmas is ruined for all the children of the world until Superman has a wonderful idea. Superman lifts the sleigh over his head, and using his incredible strength and speed, he helps Santa deliver the gifts to all the children of the world. This finally foils the plans of Dr. Grouch and Mr. Meanie, who have no other course of action, except Santa has some gifts, specifically for them. Even though I'm sure they were on the naughty list, Santa gives them the gifts anyway. This warms the heart of Dr. Grouch and Mr. Meanie, and they decide to turn away from their life of crime. Santa Claus is saved and returns to the North Pole, and Lois is released from captivity and flies off with her hero Superman. Then in the end, we see the rich kid that Superman had kidnapped at the beginning of the story. Having learned his lesson, he decides to give away all of his toys to the Daily Planet toy drive, finally realizing that it's more fun to give than to receive. Then we end with some words from Superman. I hope all you readers will remember to be generous to those less fortunate than yourselves. And now, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So what did you guys think? I love this comic. It's so cheesy. It's absolutely dripping with holiday spirit. In fact, I would absolutely call it legendary. It's a legendary meeting of these two epic characters. And I will live the rest of my life and never forget the panel in which Superman and Santa Claus meet for the first time. I mean, is there any better way to define a childhood than the meeting of these two epic titans of positivity? Then of course there's Dr. Grouch, and I kind of love this character. Not because he is interesting, he is ill-defined and he feels terribly generic. However, I love his plan. In a world where Santa Claus just kind of blatantly exists, he decides to go to the North Pole to strike up a business deal with the man and try and get rich. Then, when Santa refuses his partnership, he tries to ruin Santa's operations. At the very least, I respect his competitive spirit, and honestly, there is something really comical about having a business rivalry with Santa Claus of all people. I mean, after all, Santa doesn't make profits from his business ventures, so I don't know what Dr. Grouch was thinking. Anyway, that's it for Superman's first holiday special. I'm sure this is not the first holiday special to be featured in comic books. However, I think there is a good argument that this is the first superhero holiday special ever conceived. I don't know for sure though. What do you guys think? Do you guys know of any holiday specials that predate this one? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. But that's it for this comic book. If you liked reading this comic and you want to read more comics with me, like the video, subscribe to my channel, and donate to my Patreon. Until next time, nerds, Merry Christmas and stay heroic.